What is up, everybody? This is the Nerdy News Hour. I'm joined with Dan. Dan, what's going on, man?
Hey, glad to be here. I'm just excited about another week of nerd happenings.
Nerd happenings indeed. So, let's get into our topics of the day. The first topic that we're going to talk about here is going to be the Thor photos, which just dropped. Very, very cool stuff going on with the Thor photos. This was from an Entertainment Weekly article, which they always get the great scoops with the Marvel movies and with different things going on with Disney. So, Dan, what did you think of these photos?
I saw the cover of the Entertainment Weekly. First thing that hit me, and it was right on their like table of contents entry about the article, was the hair. He chopped all off, lost all the hair. Looks different. I think that's a big switch in look for him. Moving away from the hair, I think the costumes all look great. It's a Marvel movie, so I wasn't really like, oh, I'm worried about the costumes. But, it's good to see. It's good to confirm.
No, definitely. It's interesting. Kevin Feige has kind of said that as far as this movie is concerned, and actually this stage of the MCU, that they are more or less going to really let things kind of go off the rails, so to speak. Like, they're really going to let these directors kind of have more breathing room and really just kind of do what they feel like they want to do, which is really, really cool to me. So I of course love the photos. I love some of the armor that you see with some of the other people that Valkyrie's hanging out with. Of course, there's the Cate Blanchett photo of her being Hela, which is really cool stuff.
Yes.
Just a ton of stuff. And of course, we got to talk about Jeff Goldblum, who is looking...
I'm so glad you said that, dude, because, I hate preliminary judgments based solely on set photos, because I definitely think, you got to take post-production into effect, So they're going to soften some of those edges, I hope. But Jeff Goldblum looks like a ridiculous... He reminds me of Mugatu from Zoolander. He is so goofy looking. It's hilarious. He's the Grandmaster, and I'm just really excited to see it. Like, I guarantee you there's going to be at least a little bit of a snicker in the theater, but it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, and
it's going to be with the movie.
I mean, he's one of the thing that's so crazy is so a lot of the stuff, and not just for this movie, but for, Infinity War and everything else that's going on, it's all pulling from that 70s color palette. So a lot of these great books like the Elders of the Universe, like the Grandmaster and everything, kind of comes from a time when colors were more poppy. And just in general, the reason that comic books kind of have like those older crazy color schemes, even like the yellow X-Men or the blue and red Spider-Man. This all is from the time period. It all has to do with being in the 70s and everything was more poppy and it was just more acceptable back then. So I think they're doing a great job of kind of bringing that sort of palette back into like a modern audience. You know what I mean? They're allowing it to transition. But he looks pretty gosh dang ridiculous. There's also that photo of Thor's helmet. So they finally have the traditional Thor helmet that has never been seen in the MCU, and they're gonna slap that baby on Helmsworth's head. But the
helmet. One aspect of these photos was the helmet, which is awesome, and I think that ties into just all the cool. It sounds kind of lame to call them props, but that's what they are. They're props. But on the cover, he's got those dual swords. Like, he's got the double blades that he's going to fight with while his hammer's like out of commit, like it was while he's not worthy.
Right.
That's going to be awesome. There's another still where he's got like just a flanged mace, like a headed mace, and then a big shield in the other arm, like walking into like an arena for the Sakaar. I imagine that's going to be on Sakaar when they're doing the the gladiator kind of a deal.
God willing.
So we're going to see Thor fight with at least two different weapons, hopefully some hand-to-hand. It's going to be awesome. If nothing else, this movie is going to be an action spectacle, is what I'm getting.
It definitely seems like that. I've heard a bunch of different things thrown around. They talk about maybe how it's a buddy cop sort of thing, like there's a buddy cop feel.
Yeah, I heard that there was going to be... The director was careful. They came on, they said there's going to be a tonal shift, but they said it was going to be very slight. So they immediately brought up the people are going to say we're making just a general comedy where it doesn't really matter what's going on. But
Right.
he fought against that right immediately, went against that point and said there's going to be a slight tonal shift, but it's good. It's like a good humorous shift to it. It's not going to make it just a broad comedy. And that was good that he immediately said, all right, don't take it to the extreme. It's not going to be a comedy. But I'm thinking back on the previous Thor movies, and I felt like they had a really good blend of that Marvel humor in them already. Like I thought that Thor's jokes were pretty, they got a laugh, and then there was also the action, which was good. So if they dial that up, it's going to be interesting to see.
Absolutely. It's funny because that something that you just said is actually going to come up later, a little bit later when we talk about Wonder Woman, because there was something I read in an article that references her like fish out of water kind of part in the movie, very similar to Thor 1.
Oh yes.
And yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, there some of the funniest moments, like when he smashes that coffee cup, you know what I mean, in the
Dude,
first movie.
yes.
Like, there's just so much of that in there. So yeah, I feel like it's going to be a really great blend, but really looks to kind of go off the rails. I mean, dude, look at these different locations. You're gonna supposedly have Surtur, you have Hulk, you have the gladiator business, you've got Valkyrie, you've got Hela, you've got the Grand Master. Like, there's a lot going on in this movie. Like, this is going to be pretty visually crazy, and just one more example of them kind of being able to push the limits, because I don't know if you can get away with this kind of push if you don't have the established phase 1 and 2. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't know if audiences would go along for this ride as easily if these weren't established characters.
Yeah, I think this would definitely be a very strange uh, first Thor movie. This would be very kind of weird if they did this one first, so to speak, and then told the story from here. Even if they, gave it a good, this is the first movie introduction. It would just be kind of an odd storyline
Yeah, it's a
for the
little
first
too
Thor movie.
all over the place. I feel like that's kind
At
of
this point, like, we got to know Thor, we know why he's here on Earth, and then the second movie we really got to talk about his family and his father and the kingdom and that kind of thing, Asgard. And we learned the inner workings of that a lot more in the second one. And now
right.
here we are, he's taking out of both of these places and being thrown into this gladiator world. And they described it as like where all the universes kind of dump their trash. So he's going to have to encounter. I'm hoping we get a couple of really kind of cool. This would be a great chance for Marvel to throw in a couple of fan kind of cameos, like, hey, here's this random villain from the Marvel universe, and people will be like, oh, that guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
like if
that
this was Batman, this would be a great Killer Moth
yeah,
moment.
no, I agree. They could definitely. I mean, the talk of the town is Beta Ray Bill. Everybody wants to see Beta Ray Bill. So I mean, obviously, because here's the thing: Thor does not have his hammer. There's really not a lot of shots of him with Mjolnir, or as I call it, Meow Meow. So there's really not a lot of shots of him with Meow Meow. So it's like, what's going on? Like, does possibly Beta Ray Bill have the hammer? Because what would be dope is if he's fighting or something and Beta Ray Bill just beats his ass, takes the hammer, and flies away. That would be amazing.
That would be pretty funny.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
crazy. But yeah, so let's kind of get into our next topic here, which of
Okay.
course is going to be about Star Wars. Now, we wanted to go over this. We're going to talk about the essentially what is happening with the Star Wars universe. Like, one of the things that The Force Awakens didn't do particularly well is actually kind of explain what the heck is the political state of the galaxy, what is going on in the galaxy. And there's a great article on makingstarwars.net, which, by the way, guys, is a great site. They aggregate a lot of Star Wars news. They tend to get a lot of things right. Some people in the community actually believe that the website was created by George Lucas as a way for him to kind of vent the things that he supposedly should be, keeping close to the vest, as it were. But I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit of this article for you guys right here. And it kind of contains possibly a little bit of spoilers. I really think it's spoiler light. I don't think there's anything heavy going on here. So
I didn't get much of a spoiler. To me, it was kind of just an analysis of the end of episode 7.
Yeah, some
So
of this is like pretty obvious, so I'll go into it right here. So it says, for Snoke, the loss of the Starkiller base was as significant as his wins. His forces are no longer a secret to the galaxy at large. Those who used to laugh at the idea of the First Order as a threat are either dead or no longer laughing. The Cold War-style standoff is publicly over after the full-on assault on the Republic and the Senate. The galaxy no longer views Snoke as someone who is irrelevant on the galactic stage. The galaxy knows he and his cronies are maniacal zealots and that they should be feared for better or worse. The galaxy seems to mostly understand that the First Order is eventually coming to conquer its worlds, and those worlds have to fall in line or resist. I'm going to kind of cut down here to this part. I find it interesting. Snoke understands that everything the First Order used to do in secret is no longer an option, and a very overt war is on the horizon. Unfortunately, the Republic has completely collapsed after being attacked by Starkiller Base in The Force Awakens. The galaxy is in complete disarray. So, interesting kind of stage setting stuff. They're kind of implying a couple of different things with that. But Justin, what pops off to you? What's your first thoughts when you hear that?
Justin unfortunately isn't with us this week.
Oh my God, Daniel,
I had to
San.
hit you with that. No problem. So what I'm hearing right off the bat, and I'm going through this as a movie guy watching the Star Wars movies, and I'm hearing we will not have to worry about a Senate debate in the next movie. So the rebellion is going to be the resistance at this point, I guess, is going to meet in very much the war room style Admiral Akbar taking down the Death Star kind of meeting. They're going to be very scrappy. They're going to be meeting in different places. And it's not going to be a political endeavor. I mean, the Senate is literally vaporized.
Yeah,
there is no Senate. If there were people there, they are gone. So if in this next movie we immediately have a lot of like, I'm the political leader of this planet, I'm the senator of this planet, I'm going to be like, where did you come from? Are you the vice senator who is now in charge after the Senate got exploded or what? So
right.
I don't think we're going to have to worry about a lot of political dialogue.
No, I kind of agree with you. You know, it's funny because, you know, obviously I read a lot of the novels and the comics, and those kind of ancillary stories and everything, they've done a really great job of kind of filling the reader in on what exactly the state of the galaxy was during The Force Awakens. But essentially what was happening was you have the populace and you have the centrists. Basically, you know, the populace more or less believe that it all has to do with the core worlds, which is really interesting. If you read the Tarkin book, it kind of explains that although Tarkin comes from a fringe world, which is actually relatively close to Tatooine, interestingly enough, but he comes from like the outskirts, right? So think of it as like he's coming from like the Midwest in America,
Right.
and when the Empire is established, a lot of those worlds towards the edge of the galaxy that aren't core worlds were made to suffer so that the core could flourish. So that was the big issue with the Empire, was like, well, the centrists kind of still hold that belief, that the idea that the core government is very important and the fringe worlds whatever. So the populace become this group of people that are like, no, every planet should matter. And that is actually why they started to move the Senate around. The Senate does not exist in the Hosnian system. They were merely all in the Hosnian system because they're traveling around, sort of kind of spreading the wealth, as it were.
Okay.
Now, what's interesting is they actually had almost all of the Republic fleet there in the Hosnian system. So I would say at least 80% of the entire Republic fleet completely gone. And you know this because that's what Snoke was saying, right? That's Hux's plan, is because the Resistance is actually not government official. So everything Leia was doing, you know, with the Resistance, not government sanctioned, not official. It's definitely not anything that the Republic was doing. Like, there's some weird stuff in Empire's End where Leia talks about some missions that she did with actually Akbar, which is interesting. But they're like liberating Kashyyyk from like oppression. And just little different things like that, but none of that is Republic, right? That's all Resistance.
That's all Resistance.
Right.
And now the Republic is pretty much
now the Republic is
a
gone.
shadow.
Right. So the
self.
Resistance is going to end up becoming pretty important
Well, definitely. They're like the other main player on the galactic stage at this point. And I think, that first bit where the loss of the Starkiller base is equal in Snoke's eyes to this win against the Republic, that tells me that that's a lot of the First Order's power also taken out of commission right off the bat. So
Yeah,
we're
I
not
would
going to
tend
see
to
a
believe that.
steamroll of just, because if the Republic was destroyed and they still had the Starkiller base, right, set up the next 5 planets, set up the next 5 planets. That would have wrapped it up pretty quick, I have to feel, when you can
Right.
explode 5 planets at a time. That's way easier. I mean, right now we will bomb, well, not right now, but in past wars we've bombed manufacturing centers to stop people from blowing up a planet that produces spaceships. Has to put a stall on your galactic war. So
Absolutely.
I think this really sets us up for a great slow crawl. This next movie is going to be very tense, in my opinion, as we see both sides kind of jockeying to set up that next strike. And then the third movie could explode in all out war. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it kind of it. I think you're onto something because it kind of implies that both sides are going to need to kind of recuperate, right?
Yeah, both
Now,
sides on the back feet for sure.
yeah, and the thing that's interesting is so we don't exactly know what the First Order actually has available to it in the outskirts of the galaxy. So they're in the unknown regions. They're messing around in the unknown regions. We don't really know what's their military capacity. I mean, they were obviously able to build the Star Killer base, but there's some things in canon have implied that that was like a 20-year, 30-year plan that was being done there. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like 30 years of work just kind of down the frickin' tubes. But we don't really know what the capacity of the First Order is. And I think what they're really saying in this article is that the mad dash to get the resources is going to be like, look, the resistance is going to go around and try to recruit planets. There were probably planets that have militaries, either personal. There's this whole thing about the casino planet that's been a big rumor in.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
Yeah,
That'll be
so
interesting.
they might have a lot of resources, and whichever side they choose might end up getting a huge boost in resources for this war. So, yeah, and there's also the possibility that the Eclipse, which was this huge Star Destroyer, which was sent into the unknown regions at the end of Empire's End, that is still around, and that Snoke is on that, or something to that effect. So,
Oh, okay.
yeah, so it's possible that they've
Hmm.
got at least one more real big gun. Who
Yeah.
knows exactly? But we wanted to just kind of talk about that.
They might end
Um,
up settling it with a pod race. Just
yeah,
winner of 3 laps gets the galaxy.
I would love for that to happen. But it just kind of feels like even if that happened, I mean, where's Sebulba at, right? So
Yeah.
if Sebulba's there, he always wins. I'd bet heavily on Sebulba. But in either case, Dan, let's just break here. Let's break this tradition. I want to talk about Samurai Jack. You've been
Oh, I have been waiting for you to say those words, man.
Yes, so you're pretty hype on this Samurai Jack
Way
guy,
hype.
and I don't even have an image to throw up. That's how bad I am at this job. But what's going on with Samurai Jack? Hit me with some Samurai Jack business.
So, Samurai Jack was a cartoon that was on Adult Swim on Cartoon Network. It was on Toonami on Cartoon Network, and it was awesome. It was really cool. Kind of to relate it to our previous topic, if you're familiar with the Clone Wars animated miniseries, not the computer generated one, but the cell shaded kind of miniseries that took place in between. What was in between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones?
Yeah,
Right, I believe that's
it
when it
was
took place.
pretty dang cool. Asajj Ventress was in there. There was some Dooku action, some yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah. So the creator of that is also the creator of Samurai Jack, and he is coming back as the producer for this next season, for this final kind of. It's a farewell season, so I really think it's going to be everything the Samurai Jack fans want in like a wrap up, kind of a conclusion to the show. If you don't know anything about Samurai Jack, there was a evil entity called Aku, the shape-shifting master of evil. And
Sounds dope.
he threatened this ancient land with just darkness and trickery and all kinds of bad stuff. And so this young boy's parents, very much in a Batman style training montage send him all over the world to train with the greatest martial artists in every discipline. And he comes back a very well-trained samurai, and then the gods forge him a magic sword. And with this magical sword and his lifetime of training, he's going to take down Aku. And they have this awesome battle, and right before he kills Aku, Aku rips open a portal in time and throws him into the future where Aku already rules the world.
Holy cow.
So now, here he is in Aku's twisted dystopian future, and he, in the original running of the series, each episode was Jack either just trying to survive, or he had a lead on a way back to the past, and he would chase that lead almost inevitably to have it be a trap set by Aku, and they would fight, and then Aku would fly away saying, "I'll get you next time, samurai." And towards the end of the original run of the show, they actually did that interaction and then had Aku pretty much break the fourth wall and be like, "Hold it, what's the point? I'm just going to turn into a bat and fly away." And then they like kind of talk it out. It's really good.
Wow.
It's a really great show. It pushes the artistic boundary of what you would expect, especially when it first came out. Artistic choices like no black outlines. It really flows the colors together.
Yeah.
You also get a great use of silence. Not only was the music when it played fantastic, but at times they would just have maybe 2 to 5 seconds of just pure silence as there are dramatic scenes of kind of Samurai Jack sizing up this great threat or something.
Yeah.
So it's just a really enjoyable action show.
I gotta be honest, you're selling me on it really nicely. Cartoon Network should probably pay you, because I'm completely sold. I definitely want to check it out. But yeah, Samurai Jack. So when's it airing? It's airing this weekend. It's coming back.
It's coming back Saturday. This Saturday, it's going to be on the Toonami segment of Adult Swim. So check your local listings for Adult Swim on Cartoon Network, and definitely catch this first episode for season 5 of Samurai Jack. They've been showing some really great, the trailer. We've seen some not fan art, but some production art was released at various conventions and whatnot over the past year. Samurai Jack is back. He's grizzled. He's running around on a motorcycle. At Otakon over the past summer, they actually did a great Samurai Jack panel, and they showed like the very early draft of something they had worked out where Samurai Jack was just running his motorcycle off of a cliff, and then he pulls out his gun just starts blowing bad guys away, and it's like, what? Samurai Jack killing people with a gun sounds awesome. I'm just so sold.
Yeah,
it's bringing me right back to childhood. I'm so pumped they actually went through with this.
Yeah, it sounds absolutely incredible. I definitely won't complain about that. That guns, motorcycles, samurai sounds awesome. So check it out this weekend, guys. And I don't know, who knows? Maybe Dan will do like a little recap or a review video or something like that.
I'd love to. Yeah, I'd love to do an episode review like you guys do with DBS right now.
Yeah, why not? I say why not? We're doing it. It's official. Okay, so let's roll into our next topic. And so the Samurai Jack thing was not back to comics, so to speak. So the Samurai Jack thing was not on the ticker, but Dan and I talked about it off air. He really wanted to talk about it, so I was like, well, why the hell not?
It's happening this weekend.
Yep, so now you're looking at the image, guys. Wonder Woman. This is the buzz. This is all the realness right now. So here is the thing. Dan and I are obviously huge fans of the DC Extended Universe. We think Batman v Superman is a masterpiece. We think Suicide Squad rightly deserved an Oscar, and probably all the Oscars. Except not at all. We're really, really bummed about what's going on in the DC Extended Universe.
Oh man, dude, I'm rooting for him. I'm still rooting for him. I'm not like this is guaranteed to suck. I'm not gonna say that.
Right.
So
yeah, me neither.
I still have some hope.
Well, it's poetic though, because here's the thing. Wonder Woman, the bottom line is this. There is a lot resting on the shoulders of Diana, and it's not just in universe. This is like actually for the future of the DC Extended Universe. Wonder Woman has to be good. It has to be good, it has to be really good. And so we're basically going to reference a really great article that was on Collider about a set visit that happened. Now, they did it a while ago, but they recently lifted the embargo on it. It's an awesome article. I'll put a link to it in the description of this video. But damn it, Dan! Dan, what are some of the things that popped off to you from the article? What's some of the really goodness that you got out of it?
Well, the first thing I want to say about Wonder Woman is we saw Batman Superman just not do well. And there was this, wow, that movie was terrible. What are you doing? Setting up this universe was such a bad movie. At the same time, though, they're like the next Batman movie is already like they're going to start it soon. You know what I mean?
Sure.
There's so many Batman movies and Superman movies that when you're like, when that stinker comes out, it's like, ugh, that sucked. That was not a good step for DC. But at the same time, it's not like we finally get a Superman movie after 70 years and you ruin it. It's like,
Right.
oh, this Superman movie was bad. But this is the Wonder Woman movie. This is
Sure.
like their shot to set it up. And so I'm really, really hoping they succeed. The big claim I got out of that article was the three movies rolled into one. You had to read that and be like, big
Yep.
words, right?
Oh yeah.
The three films that the is it Patty Jenkins?
Penny Jenkins.
Jenkins. Okay, just want to make sure saying these names right. She claims that it's going to have. It feels a lot like Superman, the original Superman, not any of the
Yeah,
modern
Richard
ones.
Donner. Richard Donner.
Richard
baby.
Donner Superman. The They said even during production, Casablanca was brought up a lot, and
What?
I've made small not even movies, but video projects, and as a joke, we almost always say this is going to be the next Casablanca. So
Right.
I feel like, were people really saying this feels very Casablanca, or were they just saying it as a joke and they
Right.
got reset here?
Right.
And then finally, like Indiana Jones, and it's going to take these three films and that's this movie. They literally said that is this movie. Those three films.
That's
so
a pretty nice little mix there. Pretty nice thing to throw in the blender. I also heard that they, and this actually was not said by anybody on set. It's the vibes that the gentleman got when he was there. But he said it feels like a mix between Captain America, the first Avenger, and the first Thor, which is something that we were kind of talking about when we were going over Thor. But it's got that whole period piece thing going on. You know, she's an ideologue and then also a fish out of water, so to speak. But there's just so much in this article that really does give me a lot of hope for it. And it's really nice timing for them to bring this out because I actually had heard some buzz, and it might just be rumors. You never really know this day and age. People just run with things, and sometimes there's no validity to it, whatever. But people were kind of saying that Wonder Woman was a disaster. I had heard that, and I was like, oh man, really again? But this article really put all of those kind of worries to bed. I mean, they're describing very excellent action. Patty Jenkins didn't even see Batman v Superman until she was halfway done making this movie, which is just like, thank God.
okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah, definitely. And so there's a lot to love here. Let me ask you this: if this movie is really good, and not just good, but really really good, do you think it, so to speak, saves the DC Extended Universe?
I think it could. Not being an executive at DC film production, I don't know how on the brink they are. And I obviously, there's a bad DC movie isn't going to get rid of DC movies, but it could. I could definitely see them saying, you know what, we missed the mark on this interconnected film idea. It's not working out. Let's double down on the Nolan strategy and just make good director-based superhero movies. We can't cash in the same way Marvel has at this point. We need to just start with a new strategy. I could see them making that shift if Wonder Woman completely bombs. I could definitely see that. Now, if it does really good, at the same time, that's going to greenlight the interconnected movie thing absolutely 100%. I could see them, especially with the talk about the Affleck and Batman, I could see Wonder Woman becoming kind of the driving figure of the DC cinematic universe. Kind of like when you think about Marvel, at least for me, I think of Tony Stark and Captain America.
Right.
They're like the two heads, the main characters surrounded by the Avengers, going through the cinematic universe. I could
Right.
see Wonder Woman becoming one of those, that main character
Yeah.
as we go through the cinematic universe.
As she really should be, my whole thing with the DC, and I've kind of went on at length, at sometimes too much length, about the DC Extended Universe. And it's funny that you bring up the Nolan thing. I don't know if you and I have had this conversation or not, but like around the time when Nolan was making the last Dark Knight movie, this was when Avengers was launching. So like at the time, if you're Warner Brothers, I can totally see it makes sense for them to see what's going on in phase one of the MCU and say, that's nice, you know, keep you do your thing. We've got Christopher Nolan over here. He's making masterpieces. And it's very easy because they've always claimed to be a director driven studio. And so it's pretty easy to do that when you've got Christopher Nolan making fucking Batman movies, right?
Yeah.
Where it gets more challenging is when he steps away and doesn't really want to be a part of it anymore, and then you see the money that Avengers made, and not just Avengers but all of these other movies building up to it. So if you do total gross, because you have to remember, while The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Returns both grossed over $1 billion, that's something like a 7-year gap there, because it took 3 years to make Dark Knight, and then it took 4 years to make The Dark Knight Returns. And so in 7 years, you look at like the money that those two films made, and then you add up all the money that Marvel made during that same time frame, and that's what the shareholders shit a chicken about. You know what I mean? That's why they freaked out.
Yeah.
And so
Avengers 1, by the way, could almost be considered an anomaly. Avengers 1 knocked out so many records. It made so much money. That was the Marvel Cinematic Universe really being like, here it is. You know, here's that Avengers movie that we've been working on. Remember that one that happened a little bit after the credits for the past couple of years? Well, here it is,
Yep.
and it's the best.
And to be
And
honest,
it was
really was.
amazing.
It really was.
Yeah.
And you know, the thing that's interesting is, so they sold it as an experience. If you look at all the top grossing films of all time, right? You're looking at Titanic, you're looking at Avatar, you're looking at Avengers. What is the big connecting, the through line there? It's that they were able to sell the movies as more than movies. They were able to sell them as an experience. So like,
Yes.
it was literally a thing where it's like, well, I could go out to dinner or shoot pool with the homies, or I could go see Avengers. Wait a minute, you guys haven't seen Avengers? Holy shit, you know what I mean? And so
Yes.
it was definitely a spectacle and kind of a unique thing. Now, Marvel's obviously trying to do that again with Infinity War. I don't know if it's going to catch the same lightning in a bottle that Avengers did. I expect it to do well, but I think that you're absolutely right. DC then began making reactionary decisions after that.
Yes, and that was a mistake.
And that was a huge mistake. So bottom line, like, look, Dan and I could literally go on forever talking about the
Oh my
DC
gosh.
Extended Universe. We really have some problems with it. And just so you know, DC fanboys, it is not that we hate DC. It is that we love
I love DC.
Exactly.
I like DC more than Marvel as far as IPs are concerned.
Yeah.
I've always been like a Flash fan and reader. I love Superman. I love villains in comics, and Superman has some of the best villains.
As
So
does
I
Batman,
love
yeah.
DC. I'm way into DC.
No, and
But
I'm
their
the same
movies
way.
are not of the same quality
No, definitely
as
not.
other
Eh,
superhero movies. And it's not a DC fanboys love to say that the Marvel fanboys will just eat anything Marvel. It doesn't They like the same shit over and over. They don't care. They like it before the movie comes out. And the Marvel fanboys say that the DC fanboys will just like it because it's DC. The fact of the matter is, I don't really care what the movie's about. It just has to be a quality film.
Yeah.
And while the Marvel movies aren't all amazing masterpieces, it's hard to look at any of them and be like, that's incompetent.
Sure.
They just butchered that. You know, there hasn't been an issue like that since, like, I don't know, Daredevil? I feel like it's been a while since we've had a real stinker Marvel movie,
Right.
hasn't it?
No, definitely. And the thing is, I mean, you know, obviously that Daredevil movie and other things that were going on before the MCU was established, they were not all under the same creative studio. You know, there was different things
Exactly.
going on, Sony and Fox and all those different things. Now, the thing that's very interesting, and I swear to God, I'm going to write a book about this someday just because I'm so personally fascinated by it. But you have a guy in Kevin Feige who was literally a producer on most of those films, those Marvel films. Like, he was a producer on Daredevil, he was a producer on the original X-Men, he was a producer on Blade. Like, he did, I believe it was at least 13 Marvel movies before he established the MCU and was hired as executive of that whole brand. And
That's
the
a
thing,
ton of experience to bring to
exactly.
it.
It's a ton of
Yeah.
experience. He knew what was working, he knew what was not working, and DC just has nobody like that. They have literally nobody like that. Like, they tried to bring in Jeff Johns, and the thing about Jeff Johns is I love Jeff Johns. I literally love Jeff Johns. If I met him, I would literally mark out. But here's the thing. He's not a film producer. He's just not a film producer. He doesn't understand film at all. Look at his credits. We want to know that the one film that Jeff Johns was producer on was a fucking Green Lantern movie, and that movie is garbage. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So it's an interesting time and place. The bottom line is this, guys. Wonder Woman, it needs to be great. Go and read this article on Collider. I personally think it is going to be great. I love Wonder Woman. I love Wonder Woman deep, like the deep cut Wonder Woman, like back when she was like an actual. I don't even know how much we can even say on here because it gets a little controversial. But I love that aspect of Wonder Woman. If you know what I'm saying, you deep cut nerds out there. So I definitely want to see that and see this movie be
last little note about Wonder Woman for me is one great piece of news from the article. They are going to reincorporate the original 1970s Wonder Woman theme into
the
movie.
Linda Carter theme, bro. I've got those DVDs somewhere, like right in my room here. That's
I love old theme songs. I'm super pumped that it's going to be incorporated in some way. They said it's going to be like kind of its own version of it because it's not just the song was a product of the times that you couldn't just like ladle all over this movie. Right. But I would love to, even just like in a flashback or something, to hear that on like an old timey television set in a scene would be great. Yeah,
that's beautiful. That's actually perfect. Somebody hire this man. He's a writer. But no, please do. No, but that sounds awesome, man. I hope she spins around and her costume comes on too. That'd be dope.
Yes.
But so let's get into the last topic of the day, guys. It's the Nintendo Switch. So the Nintendo Switch has launched. There are many angry fans out there, but the question really is the Switch failing, or is there this vocal minority that is kind of painting a picture out there that is not exactly accurate? Look, all systems like this, when they're launched at a big scale, you're going to have product problems. We've looked into some of them. None of us at the Den here own a Switch, so it's a little bit of conjecture right then and there. But Dan, I mean, what's going on with the Nintendo Switch from your perspective?
I've been reading a lot about it, been checking out these articles as they come out. Our man Justin, who's not here today, is way into our gaming scene. He's been keeping us informed on the Switch. But I gotta say, I really think that the fan base, the people who are talking about this, are trying to have a bit of a poo-poo party. Yeah. I really think that people are. It's cool right now to trash Nintendo. That's the topical thing. If you're like, hey, the Switch is great, people are gonna call you a noob. Yeah. I feel like you have to be jaded at this point to be taken seriously as a I don't know, video game content creator. Yes. So let's look at like real issues, like things people have reported that are problems with the Switch. First of all, we got the Joy-Con controller. The left Joy-Con controller does have issues connecting with the system. Right. It's exacerbated when you are holding both the Joy-Con controllers together in the main controller, because your hand is supposedly covering up the sensor on the left Joy-Con. And there's been some reports that could be fixed with firmware. We're still not totally sure on that one.
Right.
Number two, we heard some reports about dead pixels, and Nintendo's stance on this is, yes, we acknowledge there are some dead pixels on the Switch screen. No, we are not going to replace your Switch because of it. Yeah. That's the stance. At the same time, I don't, as someone who doesn't buy a lot of like big technology stuff, very often, if you buy a big TV and there's a dead pixel, will they replace the whole TV? I don't know the dead pixel.
Well, I believe
policies these days.
It all has to do with the factory warranty, and if you get the warranty through, like, let's say Best Buy or wherever you pick it up. So, oh man, that was weird. OBS just gave me an error system. Hopefully we're still rolling here. Everything looks good on my end, but that was weird.
As long as the button still says stop recording and not start.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. We go.
So I don't know. It has to probably do with that. Like, what exactly is the factory warranty? Like, is Nintendo just saying like that isn't covered under the factory warranty? If so, that's kind of a big bummer. I don't exactly know enough to complain and get on their case about that. I mean, let's just be real. It sounds bad, right? I mean, that doesn't sound good, right?
If you just read all of these articles, the complaint articles, there are issues at launch. That's really what it boils down to. At the same time, there's issues at launch with most things these days. Should we as consumers say, hey, I'm fine with shitty products because everything's shitty? No, absolutely not. We should definitely have the highest of standards if we're going to spend our money on something.
Yep.
But we should also, in kind of the realistic framework of how we're buying things, realize that this is a brand new piece of technology. In a history of releases of products like this, there are issues at launch. Usually, if you wait until the next launch of that model, the next run, the next color that's going to come out, they've dealt with some of those version 1.0 bugs, and it'll be fixed. So I think this is, remember, I don't know if you remember this, but I was one of those lucky few who bought a launch model 3DS for 350 bones.
Holy cow.
I bought the first run of 3DS. I believe it was 2 or 3 months later, they dropped it by $100 to 250.
Wow.
They were like, you know what? Nothing changing, nothing better, but we overcharged for that. We're bringing it down 100.
Holy hell.
And obviously, people were like, what the fuck? You made a business decision that was bad, so I lost $100. And their condolences for that, where you get to download some free virtual console games onto the system if you're a member of Club Nintendo and all this extra da-da-da-da. So issues at launch, Nintendo has never been, oh, we'll fix everything, don't worry about it.
Right.
This is kind of what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But do you have a specific thing to jump in on here? I feel like I'm
No. It's all good. No, that's totally cool.
I'm just going to jump into the mirror that Breath of the Wild, the game, people are calling the Switch the $300 Zelda machine right now.
Oh, nice.
It looks like it's worth it. It really looks. I'm looking at the sales numbers right here. In the 3 days available,
Right.
Legend of Zelda sold over 186,000 copies by some estimates.
On the Switch or specifically?
Yeah. It was released in 2 versions for Switch and the Wii U. That's Switch exclusive. 186,000 copies.
That's crazy town.
And let's number 2 on the list during that release, that 3-day release from the 27th to the 5th sales. We've got 116, almost 117,000 copies of Horizon Zero Dawn on PS4.
Right.
So that right there is like conservatively at least 50,000 more units for Breath of the Wild, not including the Wii U edition.
That's crazy. That's a lot. Look, Breath of the Wild looks amazing. They knew exactly.
It looks so good.
Yeah, they knew exactly what they were doing, right? They were like, look, we're going to, because the Wii U didn't sell, right? So there's barely any of those out there. So they were like, well, we're going to make this Zelda game, and it is literally, its function is to move consoles. It's going to move Switches. That's what Breath of the Wild is. It's a console mover, and it appears to be working.
It's really interesting because the kind of the business model for making consoles is always you take a hit on selling the console to people in order to sell hundreds of thousands of copies of games. Of each game that you sell 100,000 copies of, you make a lot of money.
Right.
And then you use that to offset the initial loss of selling the console system to people. And it really feels like this is not a total change of that. Obviously, if they didn't have the Switch, nobody would buy Breath of the Wild.
Right.
They need the Switch for it. But they're definitely using this title as kind of a feature of the Switch. They're saying, hey, one of the main features of the Switch, it's the way to play Breath of the Wild right now.
Yeah,
so,
and playing it also wherever you want. Very, very cool concept in and of itself.
Though that's that low battery number with your Breath of the Wild, you got like 2 to 3 hours of battery life on it.
Yeah.
You're going to the library for a while, you can take it with you.
Yeah, for sure. Or you're on the
waiting
bus.
In line at exactly.
Yeah, whatever. That sounds awesome. Honestly, I'm not super interested in the Switch. I think I'm more in your boat. I'm kind of just like your average gamer these days. I'm not like hardcore in almost any
I do most of my gaming on the PC. My girlfriend has a PS4. We pick that up, play multiplayer games a lot. But at the same time, I'm thinking this holiday season, I want to see if they have those 3 new colors of the Switch or the Switch Pro or some other run of it. And if that's the case, I really got to play Breath of the Wild, man. I got to pick it up.
Yeah. That's so interesting. We're talking all this trash on it, but it's like, we're going to do it. Because I might be there too. I might be there. I'll tell you this. Smash Bros would have had me. Look, I love Zelda. I love
I
Breath of
feel
the
like
Wild.
the Smash Bros. Title is going to be our holiday season by the system game. Because during the holidays, Xbox and PlayStation are going to do something,
Yeah.
whether it's release big games or bundles or something. They're going to do that. I feel like if Nintendo holds the Smash drop for this holiday season, they'll sell this many Switches again.
That's crazy. I would love for that to be the case because then we'll all be playing Switches and we'll all be reviewing that shit on the den like every
Yeah,
day. Yeah,
dude,
no,
of
for sure.
course.
This has been the Nerdy News Hour. Like this video if you thought it was cool, and subscribe to the channel to get content like this.